Hi guys, I'm Samina, and on the Cupcake Confession today, I'm showing you how to make this smooth, rich, velvety and light as a feather chocolate mousse. It is so easy to put together. Let's begin making it. Here I am going to use two different kinds of chocolates. I'm using a 70% cocoa content and one with 55%. You could use either all 55% or all 70%. It's entirely up to you. I like the mix of these both cocoa content, and I love the flavor of the bittersweet chocolate here. I am going to roughly chop the 70% because that's a chocolate bar that I'm using, and the 55% is couverture chocolate. So these are chocolate gallets that I'm using. So I'm going to add the roughly chopped chocolate and the gallets in a microwave safe bowl, and I'll pop this in the microwave at 10-second intervals. In the first couple of 10-second interval spurts of heating the chocolate will not melt, but eventually it will start to melt. I would recommend not heating the chocolate entirely in 30-second or 60-second intervals because that can burn the chocolate, as chocolate is very temperature sensitive. So 10-second intervals work really well. You can see the chocolate is beautifully shiny and glossy. That is looking absolutely perfect, and it is pretty warm, so I will keep it to the side while we work on separating the eggs. Now for this recipe, I am going to separate the whites and the yolks. I am going to need 3 egg yolks and 4 egg whites. So I'll collect the whites in the smaller bowl and the yolks in the larger one because the final mousse will be prepared in the larger bowl. So I like to break the egg and separate the yolk from the whites using my hands. I think it's just so much simpler. Use clean hands, wash your hands thoroughly before you do this. Also make sure you wipe your hands really well because the water, if you have any water on your hands, the egg whites will not whip to a good consistency. And so I like when the egg whites slip through my fingers and it's very easy and quick. I'll keep the whites aside, and in the yolks I will add some caster sugar and give it a good whisk just until the yolks break apart and it becomes a smooth looking mixture like this. And now we are going to place it on top of a saucepan containing the tiniest amount of water. You can see there's a very small amount of water in this large heavy bottom saucepan, and the reason for that is we want to heat the water, and the steam from the water will gently cook the yolks and sugar mix. So you can see that the bowl never touches the water. There's a lot of distance between the water and the top of the saucepan. Also, you don't want to boil the water, you just want it to be slightly warm. You can see that the water isn't boiling and there's just gentle steam coming off the water. And as you can see, when I've placed the glass bowl on top of the saucepan, there is no contact between the bottom of the bowl and the water. Just the steam wafting from the heated water heats and cooks the yolk and sugar mix. You'll keep whisking this and you'll see after a couple of minutes it becomes really voluminous, and it also turns really pale in color like this. And when you lift your whisk, it falls in ribbons like this, and that's when you know that your yolks are ready. You'll keep that aside, and now just give it a good whisk just to bring the yolk and sugar mix down in temperature. It's not hot at this point, it's just gently warm. And now what has happened is the temperature of the yolk and sugar mix is almost similar to the temperature of the melted chocolate. So I'll first pour half of that melted chocolate in the yolk mix and give it a good whisk until incorporated, and then I'll add the rest of the dark chocolate that's melted and just give it a mix only until it just comes together. It may feel a bit tight and you might feel some resistance, but that's okay because we're going to loosen it up and add a lot of lightness with our egg whites and later with the whipping cream. So first we'll go with the egg whites, and I'll also add a tiny pinch of salt to help stabilize the foam. And I'll start beating the egg whites using my electric beaters on the lowest speed setting for about 30 seconds. Immediately you'll start to notice that the whites are really foaming up. You'll then turn the speed up to medium and keep mixing this on a medium speed for about 3 minutes, and you'll see that it starts to get really foamy and you get stiff peaks by the end of those 3 minutes. And now by the end of 3 minutes, we get these beautiful stiff peaks on our egg whites. What I'll do now is I'll take half of this egg white mix and plop it into the chocolate and the yolk mix. We don't want to fold it right now because, as you can see, the mix is pretty stiff, so it's not going to be possible to fold it very easily. So we'll first introduce a little bit of the stiffly whipped egg whites and give it a good whisk, and eventually you start to see that the mix is starting to loosen up. And once it has loosened up really well like this, then we can fold in the rest of the egg whites. You'll see that it's much easier now to fold the egg whites into the chocolate and yolk mix. You want to keep folding gently until you no longer see the white streaks from the whipped egg whites. And finally now, we are going to whip the cream. I like to keep my glass bowl in the freezer about half an hour before I'm ready to whip the cream, just so it helps the cream to whip really well and also stay stable. Now I've used heavy cream which contains 35% fat, and I am mixing this on a medium speed till I achieve soft peaks, and that is looking absolutely perfect. Again, we'll follow the same procedure. I'll add about a quarter of this soft peak cream into my mousse, and I'll use my whisk just to make sure that it's incorporated really well and it loosens up the mousse slightly. That is looking absolutely stunning. And now I'll add the rest of the cream and just gently fold it in until all of the cream has been incorporated really well into this mousse. And I love how luxurious and lush that looks. We are ready now to pipe this into our prepared glasses. Even as I'm piping it, you can see how light and airy that is, and it still needs to set. So once you've piped it, you'll let it set in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. And finally, before serving, you'll top it with some whipped cream that has been whipped to soft peaks. I also like to add some chocolate shavings and finish it off with half of a strawberry. And our delicious, luxurious chocolate mousse is ready. It's light as a feather, and at the same time, it is smooth and velvety and rich. It is an absolute treat for your senses, and I really hope that you give this a go. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I post a new video. I'll see you again in another baking video. Until then, goodbye and happy baking!